name's Jesse Hill, and, after a lot of thinking, I like to help people out any way I can. While I don't claim to be the wisest or the smartest guy on the planet, I like to help people in some small way. And here's a token for you guys to take up. While it does take a lot of wisdom from other things, I like to put my own little spin on it, and so I hope that this will be able to help you in just about every aspect of your life when it comes to getting jobs, picking friends, or doing something of that sort. This could really help you quite a bit, and I hope that you take this wisdom and just kind of, acknowledge it, to dissect it, and to digest it, to learn from it, as I have. Here it goes. Long ago there was a mighty kingdom. This kingdom was unmatched in riches, wisdom, and power, and the king was just the same, and loved by all of his subjects. Now, upon one mighty conquest, one of the generals, the head general, the leader of all of it, the commander of all the armies and all the navies, was struck down in battle, and had passed away. This made the king very sad and perplexed him, but in his wisdom he thought. He found 3 men that he believed to be worthy of leading his entire army, and so he gave them each 1 week to justify their case in being the grand general of all of his armies. The first was a young man clad in gold, fresh out of the academy. He was brash, handsome, and could speak to any crowd and sway them to his belief. He was very enigmatic, and people loved him for that. However, because of his pride, he would say things like, "I could lead you to hell and back. I could lead you into any battle, in any arrow storm, and we would return unscathed. As heroes in the streets, you will be loved by your fellow man, and if you follow me, you will do great things." Now the men did not believe him, for he was young, he was brash, and he was very prideful. But his arrogance, they believed, would lead to his downfall, and because of this, they did not follow him, and they rejected him. The king allowed the second week to go to the other general. Now this general was clad in silver. He was old, and he had a long beard. He was knowledgeable because he was from the rival army that had struck down his generals, and so he believed in his mercy and in his love that he would be able to give this general a chance. Now this general was well known all over the world for his military prowess. He was unmatched in his mind on the battlefield, and he was very wise. The general went before the men, and he said this: "If you follow me, I can teach you anything you need to know. I am well versed in battle, so I am very, very fit to lead you. You will outthink your enemy, you will outwit your enemy, and you will outdo your enemy on the battlefield. And if you follow me, you will be 3 steps ahead of them or more." Now, all the men liked this at first, but then they thought about it. If this general believes himself to be so high above them, what if he treats them poorly? What if because of his pride and his arrogance, it would lead them to loss, for he was the losing army before? They lost faith in him, and really didn't go anywhere with him, and because of this, they rejected him. Now the third general, all along when this started, had instead of standing before the men, enlisted under an assumed name. The soldiers not believing him to be anything special, he emptied his mind and emptied his pockets, and went in as a poor man. He humbled himself before the men, and slept where they slept, ate where they ate, and worked where they worked, and did what they did. All the while, they grew as brothers, and the camaraderie was great. They trusted him, and he trusted them, which was something that he wanted all along. He learned under the other 2 generals, and saw how they led, and it perplexed him, but he didn't let it cloud his judgment. Again, he emptied his cup, even though he was a fine tactician and a very good leader. He emptied his mind and learned more about the culture, the art of war, the way they did it, and even about the men themselves. He invested time in them and wanted to learn on how they did things, and because of this, he grew wiser. Towards the end of the 3rd week, the king was perplexed because he was fearing that the general had run off because he was unfit to do the job. He called on the 4th week for all the generals to come forward, the first clad in gold, the second in silver, standing on a mighty podium before all the armies sitting in a field. The king sat on his throne just above them and said, "Where is the 3rd one? These other 2 are surely good, but the other one did not show, so let us go with the proceedings." That third chair again was empty. He goes to the first one, the young man standing up, glimmering and shimmering. He held his hand. Surely this young man, who is brave and is bold, will be able to lead my armies. But the army fell silent. He went to the second general and said, was my enemy, but he is so wise, and because of this and his reputation, I wish him to lead my army now. Held his hand above his head, and again, there was nothing. The king was upset as he sat in his chair. He looked at the third, and there was no one there. He looked out and said, surely this man is a coward and has abandoned his post and abandoned my call for help. Let that man be struck down if he is here, and if any man knows, then I will pay you well, and I will bless you well for his whereabouts. Of all the men sitting down, nobody said anything for a moment, but one of the men stood up and raised his hand. The king said, yes, you, my young man. Who are you? The young general raised his hand and said, I am him. But Lord, if you so please, graciously allow me to explain myself, I would gladly say it before you. For I too have participated, but not in the traditional means. The king was amused and allowed him to come forward and state his case. He said, my lord, before I say anything of myself, or you say anything in my pardon or in my stead, let me ask these questions of the two before me. He went to the first one and asked, why would not the men lead or go underneath you? Surely your pomp and your pride were more enough to motivate even a man to eat nails and steel, or motivate a man to walk off a cliff with the trust in you. The general shook his head and said no. I could say the most powerful speeches, I could sway the audiences, but they would not believe me, because I could lead, but I could not be led. He sat down and went to the second general and he said, surely with your knowledge and your prowess and your reputation, you could have these men bowing to you, wanting to learn from you, like students to a scholar. Again the old man shook his head and laughed. He said, no, even in all my wisdom and all of my battle-tested strategies, they had no faith in me, and they wanted to learn nothing from me, for I would not learn from them, and because of this, they would not follow me. The third general was somewhat saddened by these people saying what they did. The king said, well, what have you? What have you then? What have you learned that is so different from theirs? The general said this, like the first general, I am different because I did not believe initially that I could lead these men at all. I wanted to gain their trust and to gain their love and their affection as one of their brothers, so that they could trust me, and that they would follow me into the gates of hell themselves and back, not because I was telling them to go, but because I was with them when they go. He went to the second general and said, likewise, I emptied my mind and did not believe myself to be above them any way, shape, or form. Rather, I lowered myself before them and learned from them and asked of them and became one of them in mind and in spirit, and therein I learned more. And because of this, I think as they do, and I can lead them without question, because we are of one mind, and one body, and one spirit. The king was greatly joyed by this, and he put his hand above the first general, and there was silence. Again the second was the same, and the hand before the third general, the men stood up and cheered loudly. So loudly that it was thunderous, and it echoed through all the palaces in all of the city. The king said, surely now that I have found the general that can lead my military, that can lead my people, because he lowered himself to be one of the men. He was willing to empty his mind to learn of the men. For this man, truly on this day, will be the general to lead my people, and he will be second only to me. There was great applause and great cheering throughout the land. And upon the king's death, on his deathbed, he saw no one else fit in the entire kingdom to lead his country. And because of this, the mantelpiece was given to the young general. Now, a lot of people see this as favoritism, but I see it as a man who is willing to do the dirty work, to roll his sleeves up and lower himself. A humble man will get far. But a man who believes himself to be better or believes himself to be above anything, he will not get very far. Guys, I impart this wisdom that, of course, has been taken from so many different ways and has been said millions of other ways. But I hope this helps you guys. Whether you're getting a job, getting married, getting friends, or joining the military. I encourage you guys to use this wisdom and to read and to let it echo through your life as it has echoed through my mind and in my life. Nothing comes easy and nothing is cheap. If you want loyalty and you want love and you want grace, sometimes you have to dirty your knees. You have to roll up your sleeves and work. Because nothing worth having is not worth working for. Thank you guys very much, and I hope this helped. Take it easy.